Mr. President, thank you. And I have never done this in the 2.5 years that I have been in the Senate. I haven't been here a long time, and I've spent a lot of time complaining about the way this place works. But I had to come to the floor to implore the senator from Kentucky to reconsider his objection. And I do it not because I have a perspective on this as a United States Senator. I do it because I had the honor of serving as the superintendent of schools of Denver for 4 years of my life and have dedicated years of my life, but more importantly, seen the dedication of the people that are working in our schools. The senator speaks of the tragedy of this process. I'll tell you what a tragedy is. A tragedy is that only 9 of 100 children living in poverty in this country in 2011 can expect to get a college degree. That's a tragedy. The fact that when I became superintendent in the Denver Public Schools on the 10th grade math test, there were 33 African American students proficient on that test and 61 Latino students proficient on that test, a test, Mr. President, that if we're honest with ourselves, which we're not, measures a junior high school standard of mathematical proficiency in Europe. That's a tragedy. It's a tragedy that there are people working in our schools right now at 11:15 in Colorado, doing the best they can to serve our kids, and we think a 2-hour meeting is too long. That's a tragedy. I wouldn't have drafted the bill exactly the way it's been drafted. The chairman knows that. He and I even have disagreements about some of the things in this bill. But finally, after 2.5 years, there's a bipartisan piece of legislation in front of the committee that's having the benefit of the work of the senators that are there, and we're told that meeting for 2 hours is too long. The senator has every right to make his objection under the Senate rules, which the president has observed may need some updating. But I think if you ask yourself, why is it that we have a 12% approval rating that's going down? It's because of this kind of thing. I actually looked forward to hearing the senator of Kentucky's amendments. I wanted to know what they were. As the chairman mentioned, there are 146 amendments that have been offered. I have some that I've offered, only 3 or 4. The senator from Kentucky has 74 of the 140 amendments. In the 2 hours we met today, we considered 3 amendments, I think, or voted on 3. We were debating a Republican amendment, and I was very interested in what Senator Isaacson had to say when our meeting came to an end. If we're going to do this in 2-hour increments, my math, I am proficient in math, thank goodness. My math is that it would take 60 days to do this in 2-hour increments. You know why people are fed up with this place? It's because they don't think the debate we're having is about them. They think the debate we're having is about us. And you know what? They're right about that. They're right about that. The teachers all across my state, all across the district that I've worked in, want us to lift this burden from them. In my view, the biggest federal overreach ever in domestic policy. And that's what this bill does, not for ideological reasons, but to help respond to the voices of our teachers, respond to the voices of our superintendent, respond to the voices of our parents who are sick and tired of the almost comical, but to them painful, measures of annual yearly progress. The idea that we're going to label all of our schools failing by 2014 because we have a completely made-up accountability system in Washington, D.C. This bill does away with that. Doesn't do it in exactly the way that I would want to do it, left to my own devices, but it does it in a way that can get bipartisan support in the United States Senate. So and I mean this broadly, I'm not saying this in this case, when people see the political games that are being played here, when they see people that are unwilling to work together, and they are killing themselves to deliver for our kids, I'm not sure there's anything more backhanded we could do. So I would beg the senator from Kentucky to let us have the hearing, the committee meeting. Let us consider his amendments and all the rest. Today's conversation was one of the first, I regret to say this, one of the first substantive conversations that I have had in a committee hearing since I have been here. And I thank the chairman and I thank the ranking member for creating a context where that could happen. Let's have the conversation. I'd be happy to meet 24 hours a day to talk about this subject with the senator from Kentucky. 24 hours a day, every day. Because if you care about the widening gap between rich and poor in this country, you cannot sustain anything remotely approaching our...
Will the senator yield for a question?
I will in 1 second. Anything remotely approaching our claim to be a land of opportunity when 9 out of 100 children born in poverty can graduate with a college degree, when 91 out of 100 children who are unfortunate enough to be born poor are constrained to the margin of our democracy and the margin of our economy. And I'll stop here, but just to be clear about it, there are 100 seats in the United States Senate. And when I walk in this room, I think about what if the 100 people that were here were children living in poverty in the United States. Here's how many would have a college degree. That chair, that chair, that chair, that chair, these 4 chairs, and this one. That's it. The rest of this chamber would be occupied by people that didn't have the benefit of a college degree.